In the midst of the silence of battle, in an unexpected moment, the entire war map changes. Today, we are not talking about ordinary clashes, but about a sudden and unprecedented military movement on unexpected fronts. What exactly is happening? And what is this turning point that has completely changed the course of operations? A decisive offensive has been launched, and entire sectors have fallen in just a few hours. Who is advancing, and who is collapsing? The answers are in this video report. Stay with us until the end to discover all the details. For this reason, I invite you to watch the entire video to be fully informed about what is happening in each area. Thus, when you see our next report, you will know exactly what changes have occurred. Don't forget to share your opinions in the comments. I read them all, and don't hesitate to support this video. Let's start now. We begin with the southern front from Kupiansk to Mirny. The control of the village of Kupiansk remains firmly and solidly in the hands of Russian forces, where no major changes have been reported recently. In the vicinity of Stepnogorsk, fighting has resumed with renewed force as Russian forces advance toward this village. In the neighboring area of Plavny, the southern parts have experienced a successful counteroffensive by Ukrainian forces, leading to the gradual and continuous recapture of the area. In response to this unexpected development, a large number of reserve forces have been withdrawn and urgently sent to the southern region to reinforce defenses and stop the advance of Ukrainian forces. Currently, the main and reserve forces are concentrated around Stepnogorsk and in the northern part of Plavny, where offensive operations continue with a dual strategic objective: to completely isolate Ukrainian forces from their main supply lines and to take total and complete control of the entire village. Moving to the Malish-Cherbak sector, offensive operations continue fiercely in the direction of Pavlovka. Ukrainian forces are withdrawing under the pressure of these attacks and are being continuously pushed back towards Pavlovka, which places them in an extremely difficult defensive position. On the Malaya-Tokmachka front, the situation remains unchanged in the north, where Russian attacks continue, while the southern part of the village is the scene of a strong counteroffensive by Ukrainian forces. Information about residential areas remains very scarce, which could indicate that the main fighting is concentrated on the northern outskirts of the village, far from civilian infrastructure. Finally, in this sector, the northern areas of Mirny and Zagorny are under the total control of Russian forces. Nevertheless, Ukrainian forces stationed north of Mirny are trying to launch counteroffensives, but Russian forces are managing to repel these attempts and keep them away from the village. That's it for this sector. Malinovka and Mali-Cherbaki sector. The village of Malinovka is currently under the control of the Russian army. A short time ago, there were intensive offensive operations in the direction of Poltavka. But now, the fighting has shifted to the outskirts of Malinovka. Regarding the villages of Vishnevo and Stepovoy, they also saw previous offensive operations towards Poltavka and Olgovskoye, but no new reports are available for this sector. That's all for this sector. The village of Malinovka is currently under the control of the Russian army. A short time ago, there were intensive offensive operations in the direction of Poltavka. But now, the fighting has shifted to the outskirts of Malinovka. Regarding the villages of Vishnevo and Stepovoy, they also saw previous offensive operations towards Poltavka and Olgovskoye, but no new reports are available for this sector. That's all for this sector. Central Front from Timirovka to Pokrovsk. The latest developments in the Timirovka region show that Russian forces have consolidated their control over the northern pocket of Zelenoye Pole, as well as the southern pocket from Novopol to Novodarovka. The majority of the village of Timirovka is also under Russian control, but fighting continues in its northern part where Ukrainian forces are positioned. Further north, fighting continues in the rest of Malievka. The area extending from Malievka to Podobnoye has come under Russian control, and forces are currently advancing towards Sichinovo and Alexandrograd. Reports indicate that fierce fighting has already begun inside these two villages. That's it for this sector. Zelenigay and Yalta sector. The village of Zelenigay is under the total control of Russian forces. Offensive operations continue in the direction of Andreevka-Klevtsova. Another attack is underway halfway between Zelenigai and Podobnoye, with the aim of encircling part of the territory. News reports indicate that fierce fighting has begun on the outskirts of Andreyevka-Klevtsova. As for the northern areas of Novokatskaya and Yalta, they have come under Russian control and attacks continue to repel Ukrainian forces. That's it for this sector. Dorkov and Kotlino sector. In this sector, reports indicate that the pocket extending from Dorkov to Novoukrainka is gradually coming under the control of Russian forces. Fighting continues in the fortified areas north of Dakhnaya, Novoukrainka, and Zelenikhod, where the fortifications and trenches of Ukrainian forces are located. As for Kotlino, it is under the total control of Russian forces, while Udakhnoye remains under Ukrainian control. The Russian army is advancing in the southern areas of Udakhnoye, with the aim of cutting the supply route and launching a two-front attack. However, Ukrainian forces continue to launch counteroffensives in Kotlino, and violent fighting is taking place in the north of the village. That's it for this sector. Pokrovsk Front, the great turning point. This sector is witnessing fundamental changes. Russian forces are currently positioned in the heart of the city of Pokrovsk and are advancing in depth. The capture of the village of Novoukrainka by Russian forces has also been confirmed. Fighting has now intensified in the city's suburbs toward Chonichino and Novopavlovka, and Russian forces continue their steady advance toward the center of Pokrovsk. In addition, a vast clearing of agricultural areas and open lands located south of Pokrovsk is underway, with these lands being gradually secured and coming under the control of the Russian army. Numerous reports indicate that active offensive operations are currently taking place in the southern streets of Pokrovsk, where Russian forces are advancing from the south with the goal of taking control of these neighborhoods. Violent clashes are also reported in the agricultural areas and open sites west of this city. We are receiving information about fighting in the northern part of Pokrovsk, which indicates that the battles have extended to all corners of the main city. Regarding the village of Likovka, its central part is under the control of the Russian army. However, its outskirts remain under the control of Ukrainian forces, who are sparing no effort to launch counteroffensives to regain control of the village, in addition to other attempts to penetrate the neighboring village of Dashinskoye. That's what happened in this sector. Mirnograd and Nikolaevka sector Russian forces are advancing in the agricultural areas and open lands located west of Mirolyubovka, and vast offensive operations continue in the direction of Mirnograd. As for the village of Nikolaevka, it is also under the control of the Russian army. We are receiving information that violent clashes have already begun in Kazatskoye and Promen, with the continuation of offensive operations from Nikolaevka. Further north, the villages of Novoekonomicheskoye and Nikolaevka are under the total control of the Russian army, and attacks continue in the direction of Mirnograd. Reports also reach us about the extension of Russian military control toward Rudinskoye and Chervonyliman, where active fighting has shifted. That's it for this sector. Seversk sector, north toward Chasiv Yar fighting, continues in Pereyaznoy. As for Vimka and Novosyolovka, they are under the total control of Russian forces, and troops are advancing from there towards Seversk. Violent fighting continues in Serebryanka, in the direction of Seversk. Further north, near Dubrova and Torskoye, Ukrainian forces failed in a counter-offensive. Russian forces currently control the lower parts of Dubrova and are advancing toward Torskoye, which is under total control. As for Zarekhnoye, the presence of Russian forces there has been confirmed, and active fighting is ongoing. In the Zeleny Dolina area, the Russian army fully controls the southwestern zone. Reports indicate that the lands north of Chandrigalovo have come under Russian control, and fighting has begun in this village. Moving to Chasiv Yar, fighting is still ongoing in Stobushki and Nikolaevka. Reports indicate the start of fighting in Chervonoy. Attacks continue in the direction of Konstantinovka from Chasiv Yar. That's it for this sector. Kharkiv sector. The counteroffensives in Volchansk, fighting continues. To the east, the Ukrainian army is launching counteroffensives between Volchansk and Tikaya, while Russian forces are trying to repel them. As for Zeleny, it is under Ukrainian control, while Staritsa is under Russian control. Russian forces are trying to pressure Zeleny and are repelling the counteroffensives of Ukrainian forces near Staritsa. Sumy front, Border clashes in Garnal. Russian forces are repelling Ukrainian counteroffensives. In Yunakivka, Russian forces control the northern part, while the Ukrainian army controls the southern part. Fighting has begun in the center of the village. Finally, in Kondrashovka and Andreevka, control of both villages and the surrounding areas has passed to Ukrainian forces. Counteroffensives continue in the direction of Alexeyevka, where fighting is taking place on the outskirts of the city. That's all for this front. We have reached the end of this video, where we have explained all the fronts and their developments. In conclusion, don't forget to support the video by liking, subscribing, and sharing your opinions in the comments, and stay tuned for our next report to find out about the latest developments.